So the most recent movie out on Apple TV is a brand new movie called The Gorge, starring Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. And whenever I hear those two paired together, my ears instantly perk up. You got my attention because I love the both of them. And I'm sure what you're probably wondering is this another movie that went straight to streaming for a reason, or is it actually good? And the answer to that is, sort of. So as I just said, the movie stars Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Sigourney Weaver in a very minor role. What the movie's about, you have these two elite snipers played by the two of them that have to stand watch on the opposite sides of this gorge, and they're not allowed to have contact with one another, but it's disclosed to us very early on that this gorge is kind of a representation to the gates of hell. So these two are going to be sharing a mission over the next 365 days of manning watch over this gorge, defending the wall, saving humanity, and that's what this movie's supposed to be about. What this movie actually kind of is a continuation of the trend we seemingly keep getting, and I'm actually a fan of the trend. It's like that massive genre blender thing where we take like 4 different types of movies and stick them into one. It's kind of a war movie at certain points, then it's a romantic movie, kind of a romantic comedy even, and then it gets to be kind of like science fiction fantasy once the gorge comes into play. So this movie's kind of all over the place. But as I just said, it didn't really matter what this film was about, because when I heard Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy were in this, I was going to be seated or watch it wherever, whenever, because I like both of them a lot. Kind of crazy how their careers have played out. Anya Taylor-Joy starting with The Witch. Now she's one of the biggest actresses in Hollywood for good reason. I think she's fantastic. Because if you had a different cast, I think this film might be damn near unwatchable. But the two of them are very good. They have good chemistry together. And it makes this movie a lot more enjoyable than it would have been otherwise. It's kind of crazy to see Miles Teller in this position as well. One of the biggest actors in Hollywood. You know, Top Gun Maverick. Now he's in this. Kind of wild to believe it all started off with him saving Jeff Chang. And if you understand that reference, kudos to you. You have good taste in comedies. But again, in all seriousness, he's in this movie, he's good, he's playing this like stoic soldier who has a troubled past. The two of them are kind of opposite. She's kind of more lighthearted, free-spirited, she's kind of more fun on the job. But the two of them also do share a lot of things in common. They both have trouble sleeping. This job is basically their entire lives. And they obviously have their own motivation and incentives for why they got into this. In the first 15 to 20 minutes, we do find out some stuff about both of their characters. We find out that her character, Draza, lost somebody close to her when she went back home. And we found out that Miles Teller's life is basically nothing but this. He's been in the military his entire life, has an incredible amount of confirmed kills, and this guy cannot sleep, this guy is broken, this guy basically lives to do this. But getting back to the plot of this film, there's a lot to love about it, and there's also some stuff that I actually thought was really stupid and I was not a fan of whatsoever. So as I said, you have these two snipers. They've been tasked with this top secret mission of looking after this gorge, the gateway to hell, and that's completely fine on the surface. You know, nobody else knows about this mission, not even sitting presidents. It's a top secret, very important mission. So they pick these two people that have basically no family members left, nobody who would know they were here. They cannot spill this to anybody. They only communicate with the government once a month. They cannot even communicate with one another. They have all of these ground rules laid out. I'm completely fine with that. But the problem this movie has is, like a lot of these movies that tries to blend genres, it requires massive suspension of disbelief very early on. In the exact scene they introduced you what the point of this mission is and why these people are at this gorge, I thought to myself, if this is such a top secret mission, I understand you don't want anybody to know about it. Why would you only task 2 people with the fate of humanity in their hands? I understand it's a movie, but that is immediately a giant stepping stone mentally I had to get over. And then, as I already said, they only communicate with leadership once every month. So my immediate thought is, what happens if something goes south? Like if these people get overran at the wall, they decide to ditch their mission, nobody knows what's going on here. So we're tasking the fate of society into 2 people who could literally fall dead from a heart attack any given day. And this is the basis of this movie. Again, pretty stupid. It kind of took me out of it early on. And a major driving force of this plot is the fact that these two are going to connect because they work together and they spend all day together. Every day they're going to spend an entire year with nothing but each other. Because they both live in isolation, they have nobody else to talk to, so they start communicating through binoculars. They're breaking the rules. And because of this movie has a very weird, like, romantic comedic edge to it because the two of them do start to bond. And unironically, I actually think that's by far the best part of this film. Just the connection of these two, the comedic timing, the romantic edge. I had the most fun with this movie just having these two hang out, the jokes between them, just the chemistry between them. I'm almost sure I'm in the minority saying that, but for the first hour of this film, I thought the tone was wildly off, but I thought that romantic comedic edge kind of saved it. And building on the fact that these two are going to be connecting, it does move the plot along, but in a very unbelievable way, once again requiring massive suspension of disbelief, because these two have been handpicked for this mission because of their personality, because of their skill, because of the fact they are loners. And Miles Teller's character makes it very clear very early on. He's a stoic, he's all about the mission. This guy is strictly business. With that being said, it doesn't take him very long to break character completely, because within the first 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, Levi is like completely falling in love with Draza, and he is just going to do anything he can to get over there and hang out with her, which again is just completely stupid and unbelievable that this guy whose entire life is a military background, he's such a stoic, he's so dedicated to the mission, just completely does a 180 within the first 15 to 20 minutes. But I know it's a movie. But then I sat and thought with it for about 30 seconds and I realized I probably love Anya Taylor-Joy too, so maybe it's not that unbelievable. Maybe it's actually a pretty realistic movie. It's gonna sound like a petty gripe, but honestly my biggest issue I have with this film is I just thought it had no style whatsoever. And this is a streaming movie. We know what we're going to get. It's an Apple TV movie, but it felt like it was a streaming movie to me. This movie had absolutely nothing that made it feel unique. Don't get me wrong, it's an incredibly well-made movie, but the way it looks, it just looked like a TV show episode. It almost looked like a commercial to me. Kind of ironic it's on Apple TV. I would not be surprised to find out this was entirely filmed on an iPhone. Again, the picture looks great, but when you pair that with the fact they're doing that weird editing tactic that's become way too common nowadays, where you had like chapter cards in the middle of the movie. I'm talking about where it goes like December and it cuts to black and then it just picks up somewhere with no continuity. Yeah, it's doing that thing, and when you pair it with the incredibly crystal clear picture, it just looks like something that like a first timer made and edited in Final Cut Pro. Just something to point out, might not bother everybody, but for me this movie felt very generic when it comes to the style component of how it was filmed. It's actually kind of a little nitpicky thing I have with a lot of streaming movies nowadays. It feels like because they all use the same filming and editing studios, almost all of the movies have the same style, the same crisp picture. It leaves out all of the grit, all of the uniqueness, and all of these movies kind of suffer for it, at least in my opinion. But it probably sounds like I'm absolutely shitting on this film, and I didn't absolutely hate it. It was just a very, very weird experience because it's like 4 movies in one. But about the halfway point in this film, they're hanging out, they're being romantic, they're doing all the stuff you think this movie would be about. But then something happens and they end up going into the Gorge, and you get to see what's going on with the gates of hell and all of that storyline they've hyped up. And from the 1 hour point in this movie to the end of this movie, when you are in that Gorge and you're seeing what that world looks like, I thought it was really cool and I was entertained. So this is definitely a movie of 2 halves for me, because the first half of the movie, I did like the romantic elements. Everything else felt very cardboard. Second half of the movie, when you're in this Gorge, it feels like you're in like Dead Space, Silent Hill. I thought the world was just awesome. It's definitely not the best CGI or anything I've ever seen, but I thought the world was unique enough, and what they start doing starts to become and feel more unique. So I really liked the second half of this film, and it actually kind of won me over, and by the end of the film, I actually thought I had a pretty good time with this thing. It's definitely not a movie that's going to knock your socks off, or you need to run out and rent or buy or get Apple TV for or anything. But I definitely think it's a fun little watch if you do like a genre blender sci-fi horror movie, a little bit of romance thrown in. But overall, I would actually give this movie a rating of wait to streaming. But since it's already on streaming, I'm going to give it a good time. So if you guys did see The Gorge, comment down below, let me know, or just let me know what your favorite Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy film are. I feel like they're in all the good movies out now. And if you haven't already subscribed, join me down below. I love talking movies with you, but I will see you in the next video. Peace.